Buenas tardes, estamos acá tomando mate en el 9º piso de nuestro nuevo edificio de la calle Bonifacio. Está parte del equipo del UBACYT de tecnología, identidad y política y algo más largo, pero básicamente es el proyecto y el equipo que viene desde hace mucho trabajando sobre temas de conocimiento, tecnología, artefactos, cuerpos, en el Programa Antropología y Salud, del que formamos parte y que tiene muchísimos años. Ya creo que vamos por la tercera década de ese programa, que ha formado generaciones enteras de antropólogos y antropólogas. Y tenemos una invitada muy especial, que es Helen Stefan, que ella es antropóloga. Ella se formó en la Universidad de Hamburgo y está cursando su doctorado en la Universidad de Bremen, en un grupo de estudios que se llama Contradiction Studies, Constellations, Heuristics and Concepts of the Contradictory, in English.
Yes.
Bueno, así él parece que es el nuevo latín, el idioma universal, entonces está en inglés. Pero ella está en nuestro equipo, con todo, digamos, viene a participar de varias reuniones, jornadas. Estuvimos en Mar del Plata unas jornadas, está participando, estamos intercambiando. Y la idea de la reunión de hoy es que ella nos comparta los avances del trabajo que está haciendo, de su investigación, que está muy articulada con muchas de las tesis y de algunos proyectos que fuimos llevando adelante en el equipo. Y bueno, y nada más, vamos a escucharla y la idea es tener una charla, intercambiar, poder hacer preguntas y poder conocer un poco más el trabajo de Helen, y que esperamos que empiece a haber, digamos, más colaboraciones de aquí en adelante. Pero bueno, Helen, adelante. Ha hecho su PowerPoint en castellano para que podamos seguir mejor la presentación.
Muchas gracias. Okay, good. I will talk in English because my Spanish is very bad. I'm very happy to be here today, and, because in Germany, you know, like the contradiction studies group, it is very, like, a lot of different faculties come together, and we will all work on our concept of contradiction. It can be very different, and so I'm very happy to be in a study group who is anthropological and studies gender and science and technology studies. This is very special for me. And I'm always excited before talking, but this time especially because I only had very few days to prepare. I was a bit sick. Normally I like to have 2 weeks. This was 3 days. But I will try my best. I've been, like, this is my doctoral thesis, and like maybe the main contradiction is about the binary gender. And I use a notion of contradiction that is a bit like Foucauldian, that thinks of contradiction of something as an ordering figure into disorder. Like if society is like in a disorder, the contradiction makes differences to like build categories and so on. And I think, and it's always a practice. It's like a speech act, but I'm, you know, a praxeologist, so I also think of it as a practice.
Praxeologist, estás hablando de Anne-Marie Moll y ese concepto de la...
For example, yeah. So I think the binary gender was like historically done. It was researched. Yeah.
¿Hace falta, les parece, resumir un poquito, traducir un poquito? ¿O seguimos?
I think I will come back to that later, you know. I will come
bueno, okay.
It's just a small teaser. Yeah.
Pero pregunto por eso, qué sé yo. Sí, estamos bien, incluso para...
Okay. So I researched the last 2 years in various assemblages in Germany, in various situations, and I followed the question how bodies, gender and sex hormones get related in the context of transgender. And I did this in different places. And yes. And today I would like to present you one chapter which I just started writing. It's very new, and I want to present you some of my field material. And I would love a lot of questions and resonances. What do you think? What are your questions? Also, feel welcome to give me inspiration to think and write and produce, interesting questions. Because I got soaked up in it. Yeah. So I will present today first the structure of my thesis, and then I will talk a bit about my method and my fieldwork, and then I want to present you my sixth chapter about the prescription practices of doctors, how they prescribe hormones to trans people. And I call it in the treating room. Yes. And maybe later I will talk about auto-administration of self-medication, because a lot of trans people do that out of various reasons, and I will explain this. And if we have time, I can come back to the other chapters. I prepared short resumes, what I will do there. So in English, or no, in Espanol, yeah.
Como quieras.
It is aparatos material-discursivos y cuerpos hormonales, vivir en contradicción con la biopolítica de género binario. Es el título de my thesis. And of course there's an introduction about trans theory, about contradictions, about biopolitics. Like for me, biopolitics are always linked to necropolitics. And I see, but for example, this notion of biocapital, I would like to think of a notion of necrocapital, produced out of a socially dead, but also out of death, you can produce capital. Then the second one is my theoretical chapter and also methodological. It needs to be two, I think. When I also, talk about the history of medical bodies and sex hormone research. And then this will be my empirical chapter, is it? Can you see it? Yeah, from here, this is empirical chapters. So I was in a psycho-neuroendocrinological laboratory, in the natural science, and they researched with MRI, magnetic resonance tomography. They researched trans brains, and I could be there with their studies. So it's like a classic laboratory study of anthropology. And then I just started to research the revision process of the S3 guideline. This is evidence-based medicine. So the medical associations of Germany come together and they take all the research there is about trans health care and then say to all the medical disciplines, this is the best way to do it. So this is why I call it estándares de oro. Gold standard. There is a book about gold standards, and I'm a bit citing it. Then the fifth chapter will be about the accessibility. So, and this is also something I would like to learn, here from my stay in Argentina, because this is about pathologization, the F64. This is the ICD-10 code for transsexuality, the gender identity disorder, and you need it to access hormones. You need a letter from a psychotherapist that you want to live in the other body. And I talk a lot about affective dynamics around this and how all the trans professionals use it to say if a person is trans enough. So it's a lot about, alienation or someone is judging about you and has power over you. So, yeah. So, and today this is about a prescription, and I will show you some material, and I want to develop with you some ideas. And maybe you know choreographias, ontológicas, as Janice Thompson. You know, I think she's with in vitro fertilization. She's working, and I liked her.
Tefi usó ese concepto también en su trabajo, sí.
I like it because it is also thinking of like all the different practices making reality. So this is how I think about bodies and gender also, not as something stable. You know, binary gender, like this state is like once ascribed to you and then always the same, but it's changing as situation. See, and lastly, I will be like bringing into friction all these different situations. So this will be like my last chapter. So for me, like this work of material discursive apparatuses, I get from Karen Barat, and they are physicists and working in the tradition of Donna Haraway. And what they say is that we shouldn't think of reality in this like enlightenment style of thought where there is where materiality is dead. It's an object which has like, you know, rules like mathematics and physics, and we have social like constructions which like project and construct reality, but to think it together. And I think it is very smart, and what she stresses, and it's very close to Annemarie Moll and everything, you know, like that our very methods, like the apparatuses of research, produce the reality, a phenomenon. So she doesn't say that there is, everything is a social construction, but we have situational truth that are produced. But we have to think of the exact relationalities, how this phenomenon appears. And yes, so it is about an idea that materiality has agency and is performative. Yeah. Then of course, Annemarie Moll is very important, and I think also later we will see this, like because like she's an ethnographer, and she did this very inspiring studies about the ontology of atherosclerosis, I think.
Atherosclerosis.
Very interesting, where she goes in the hospital from one station to another, and she says, look, if we use X-ray to show the illness, it is very different picture than if we use ultrasound technique, than if we use a microscope and look at the arteria. So she's also about, you know, like all the practices involved in a situation are like putting, like doing our reality. Yeah. And then Helen Viran, I really like her. She's talking about the method assemblage, which is also like, especially for ethnographers, I think very interesting or like important, like how we ourselves, our methods produce like foreground, it's something, and put something to the background always. So we can't choose but produce a certain, you know, partial truth. And I really like how she writes, and it's also about the writing process. Yeah. And then I put Veronica Sanz. I mean, there are so many feminist STS and also black theorists that are so important. I like Veronica Sanz because she's from the town, like in a tradition of a lot of people, but how the gender binary got only since the 1800s in the biomedical research important, and she says it is a master signifier that is always and again put into the methods and into the research data, even though there are so many contradictions against this pure binary of gender. And for me, it is always interesting to ask, or I like to ask the question, how reality or like would look like if researchers would have started in the 1800s to research with 5 genders or with 8 genders, if they just would have you know, produced a bigger multiplicity of gender expressions, and not, you know, like be so fixated on the reproductive genitals. Like, I think this is the capitalist mode of gender that we know. So yes. So, like, in this whole talk, the body as an object is very important, object of medicine. And I really liked, of course, Silvia Federici, but also I think with a lot of, you know, like black studies scholars who say like the body as an object and commodity was much more virulent in enslavement practices. So if we go historically back to where bodies became objects, we need to think of colonialism and racism as a driving force of producing or enabling capitalism and bodies as property. And I think in medicine it is a lot about this, you know, the medical body as an object, that it can travel like a commodity, and is alienated from the person who suffers, actually. So this is also what Anne-Marie Mohl says a lot, like it is so rarely listened to the patient. Because there are so many epistemologies of sicknesses and, you know, about physiology, pathology, anatomy, and everything. So, yeah. So yeah, what did I do? I was in a lot of places, and I was in a supervision group for medical doctors. I'm still in it. I'm also helping to develop workshops to train doctors and how to prescribe hormones in Germany. I've spent in medical practices, I think it was around 15 days, and with 4 doctors. And I could just witness how they treated trans persons. I think I saw how they prescribed hormones to around 50 persons, something. Really interesting, very different, yeah. Like I have conducted a lot of interviews with doctors, psychiatrists, and trans counseling centers. I've been in the psycho-neuroendocrinological laboratory for a month, and of course did some follow-up things. And I'm now researching with the F3 guideline. But this is, I see how it goes. It's a very complicated process. And of course, I've been talking with a lot of trans person, conducted interviews, and I was, you know, in self-help groups. I'm in Telegram groups. I know the trannies. My friends are trannies. And of course, I have been prescribed hormones myself. This was the starting point of my research, actually, because I thought, oh, I'm not just transsexual. And I needed this paper to get hormones, and I thought, oh, this is crazy, huh? That I need this pathologization to be valid at a doctor. Say I'm trans, and yeah. So yeah. Autoethnografía, sí.
Bien.
Sí. So today I want to dive with you into the medical practices. And where am I? It will be a little journey through a lot of practices, from a workshop where doctors learn to prescribe hormones, to later how laboratory results are interpreted, and how the medicalized body of a trans person can be administered by doctors, and is actually a very fuzzy object. From every situation to situation, it becomes something different depending on the practices, how it is talked about, how it is measured, and so on. So, yes. And I think one of the bigger frictions here will also be that the medical self-determination of trans people is often like denied. Like a lot of times trans people don't feel well with a certain medication, but the doctors stay with the regime, and I want to make sense why this happens. Yeah. And yeah. And in the end, maybe I come to the situation where people self-administer hormones and why they do it. And yeah. So just a little historical background is that in Germany there was the Transsexual Act, and it got it was decided by the government in 1980. And this is like it is very much linked to a very binary idea of transsexuality.
Yeah.
So for me also it is like a purification process of non-binary people. They want to make you binary, also in the transgender part. And this is also, you know, like if you wanted to change your gender legally, you had to be sterilized. So you can't have children. Until 2011, it was the situation. And I think in France until 2017, when the European Court decided this is inhuman practice. It's very long.
Para precisar bien, porque ahí dice la esterilización forzada. What is it? Is it by law?
Yes. If you, like until 11, if you wanted to change your legal gender, you had to be sterilized.
Wow. This is shocking for us.
In France until 2017, and they didn't decide it themselves, but only obeyed the European Court, who ruled
as a crime.
No, I think it's for the why?
I think it's something. How is it? Eugenic.
Claro.
Because in Britain, Turing.
No, estamos hablando de 2011.
Yes.
I know. I spoke with the person who went in front of the court. Yeah. It's crazy. So only last year they cancelled this old law, and there's a new law which is a self-determination law of the legal gender, but it doesn't affect the access to hormones and like all the operations and everything. So this is still very much in the old sense. And so what I want to say is this is the context where the medical practices were born. So they are really like the old medical practice are still in the tradition of this binary transsexuality act. And you know, like non-binary people got more present only since 2010 something, you know. And then some there's some medical, like progressive medical doctors, and they are the old school ones. And so, and also like there is a liberalization like of the climate towards trans, but also there is a backlash, and also with the doctors. So it's a very complicated situation. Yes. And Yes, and I think this conservative movement is very, you know, the health insurances, they also always want to save money. So they are always trying to restrict the access. So like the conservatives can be very strong and are often backed by the interests of the health insurance companies. And this is a problem. We can talk about this later, because, yeah. Yes. So in the medical practices, I think the point I want to make is that even though there are a lot of influences, and it's, you know, like trans healthcare is an exception. It is not normal healthcare. You need, if you want to prescribe something, you need like a signed paper of the patient that you use medication that is not, which is not legal for this treatment. So you sign an off-label use. And also you need an extra indication letter from the psychotherapist. Otherwise, the health insurances can say, you don't get the money from us. So a lot of doctors especially on the level of the general practitioners, they fear if they prescribe hormones that the health insurances will claim the money back after 2 years. And then it's like a lot of thousands of money that they risk. But but there are very few, this is why there are very few doctors, like general practitioners, who do hormonal therapy. Like on the level of endocrinologists, which, they are more specialized, it is more common to do this. But since like there are a lot of more trans persons since the 2010s, all the endocrinological practice overflow. So at the moment, some endocrinologists try to train the other doctors, like gynecologists, urologists, and general practitioners, how to prescribe hormones. But now the health insurances, they try to make it more difficult again. So there's a lot of fights going on. But like in no university, neither for psychotherapists nor for doctors, you learn how to do trans healthcare. If you want to learn, it's your own motivation. And most of the people who do it are kind of activists. And so there is no institutionalization of the knowledge how to do it, like in a very practical sense of how to get the money from the health insurance, and also in the medical way. And today, I'm very thankful that I could work with some doctors, because there is a lot of anxiety. When I asked some practices, they were saying like, oh, we are doing nothing special here. We do everything like the guideline. But at the same time, I know that every practice does a different way, and this is because of the different traditions, that is not the knowledge is not institutionalized. Everybody learns a different way. Oopsie. Yeah. So I talked to a doctor in an interview, why there are so many different ways of prescribing hormones. I need to give you some more examples. For example, in Bremen, there is no endocrinologist who is prescribing hormones to trans people. They just no, they don't want to. They are transphobic. They don't want to. In Hamburg, there's a practice, in Osnabrück, in Hanover. But all the trans people from Bremen go to other cities. And then you hear in Hamburg, for example, they prescribe progesterone to a trans woman, but in Oldenburg they don't. And in Berlin, they do microdose testosterone to non-binary people, but in Hanover they don't. So all the practices do a different thing because of this, different ways of doing it. But they all say, I'm doing it the right way, and this is the only way. So, the conservative ones. And I was really wondering why this is. And then I talked to a doctor, and she said, so if you look at our practice, which is very large, we naturally have people who are just starting, like other doctors. They are seeing someone for the first time, and that's necessary too. Someone has to start somewhere, and that means they naturally need something to hold on to. And I said, of course. And she said, before they somehow develop a feel for it, or can somehow intervene more effectively with experience and intuition, in the beginning you simply need guidelines, safe guidelines. And I think this is very interesting, because I went to one of the workshops where they show you how to learn and have a safe guideline. Yeah. and I want to talk with you about the binary things happening there today. So it was an old professor, and I know, like, in his practice he's very liberal, like he's very, you know, he's doing a lot of experiments. But in this teaching course, he was so old school. He was crazy. He was like saying to trans men, he would like always say, a trans man, that is a female to male, transsexual, and he would always gender him female. Was really crazy. He was so like, yeah. But you know, like there is this very old, like in medicine and biology, you have this very binary way of sorting the bodies, and this is very present in this workshop. And so here he showed how, like trans women, you need to drop their testosterone. Like this is the cis male range, and you need to drop it with spironolactone or ciprotronolacetate. This is the medication to the cis feminine level. And very importantly, the zero is very present here also. I will come back to that later. And then, like, this is how you do, this is how he explained how you would work with trans men, where you push the testosterone to the cis male range. And like these reference intervals of like the binary gender are very important because they are a very important orientation for doctors. So like if trans people go to medical practices, they get blood drawn, then they measure it in the laboratory, and then they get a paper back with a number, and then they adjust the medication. Like this is very common. For me, it was, I always asked, how is this reference level of one of the genders being done? And there are a lot of, like every laboratory does it for themselves or gets it with a machine they use. And they did a test, and it is roundabout like this, but you need to know that this is a 95% interval. So 5% are always outside. And I want to think with you, like, because I was thinking about how much is 5%. And it is a lot, like from 100 million people, I think, I don't know how much Argentina has, it is 5 million personas, like persons of 100 million. And this is 5%. And if you go like more, like from a million, no, from 1 billion, it is 50 million. And from 8 million, like the whole earth, a billion, sorry, it is billion. It is 400 million people. I'm sorry, this is a wrong translation, I think.
Okay.
Yeah? It is like on earth there are 400 million people that are outside of these reference ranges. And you know, like all these Olympic Games, exclusions. Yeah. I mean, it's like if you think of 400 million, it's very probable. So you don't fit, you need to take then like testosterone blocker to fit in the female hormone range of testosterone. And the funny thing in this whole workshop, he didn't show the estrogens because like they are, I think from the cis male 95% interval, it goes from 0 to 50, and with the cis female, it goes from 50 to 600. And they don't show it because it's just overlapping so much. I don't know. Yes. So this is a very simple idea of how the brain gland, the hypophyse, regulates the gonad. Like this is also for trans women. And with ciprotronolacetate, you lower the LH, so the hypophyse won't produce so much testosterone again. And it's saying, like, if you give another hormone, like the LH always measures estrogen or testosterone, if you put another hormone into the body, it will lower their own production. And you can help with these medications. Like, I don't know, like this is also something I really like it, because every scientist and doctor working in the field of gender or hormones, they can draw this line how the hormones in menstruating persons fluctuate over a menstruation cycle. They can draw it like this. But I mean, it's one drawn line for 4 billion people. You need to imagine how different the variations can be. This is crazy. Like, and this is what I mean by the body as a medical object. They always reduce it so much to one easy concept. Here he shows that, like, estrogen, it's the red one. Here it goes like this. And he like says the best is if we put trans women on a stable level between 100 and 200. But the fluctuation in the menstrual cycle are like up and down, up and down. And yes, so there's a lot of discussion about that. What am I saying? Yeah. And also very important, in this menstruation cycle, there is no testosterone. So as if like in a menstruating body there wouldn't be testosterone, but there is, of course. Like there's always testosterone with this, but it is like put as a non-female hormone. So they just eradicate it a lot of times. And this also has an effect like on the practices, how doctors prescribe hormones, like, or what they think which value is good, because they just put a lot of trans women to 0 testosterone, and a lot of them get depressed and, like no libido, and, like very low energy and everything. And the doctors are like, oh, I'm doing everything good. Yeah. So, and this is especially a problem with this acetate, because like it has like 10% of the people who take it get depression. And in former times, when it was even more conservative about, trans women shouldn't have any testosterone, they gave very high doses. And a lot of trans women got very depressed. If you talk, like in Germany, if you talk with the older generation, they said it was really hard. Yeah. And so, yeah, and then, like, there's a lot of knowledge that some endocrinologists have, and they say, like once it said to me, oh, the most of the trans women like testo in this level, and so, but she's open to experimentation, and I think this is what I try to, like ethically argue, is like that medical practices should be open. So, and of course, like in the community, there's a lot of counter knowledge gathered, and but only in some groups, and they spread it, of course, but this is really a thing about the urban places where like trans community is actually there. But if you meet, like when I was in these doctoral places who like have people from all over the place, from 200 kilometers away, they come because healthcare is so bad, Sometimes I was really shocked how lonely and isolated some people are. And I think it's really hard and alone sometimes. And you need community to empower yourself, and also, like, so yeah, some trans women say it's really good to have peaks and downs for, that the body builds receptors, being sensitive to estrogen. And I really want to go into the history of when was the receptor of a cell discovered, because I think receptivity is a very interesting concept of medicine. Yeah. So yeah. So yeah, and I you know, recently I'm working with a transmasculine group, and some showed me their laboratory results, and they were like, the E2 level was at 2000. And this is something where doctors like would say with trans women, this is not okay, this is dangerous, we need to lower your dose. But it's actually somehow also a natural level. So, yeah. Where am I? Now it's about, about progesterone. There's a big discussion. And of course, you know, like these big, evidence-based medicine tools are like always an orientation for doctors to say, I do it or not. Also to be saved from health insurance reimbursements of money. And so like the standards of care from the World Association of Trans Care Professionals, they said there is no evidence, only anecdotal evidence that progesterone is good. And now there's a very new study that says, oh, it helps breasts grow about 37%. But I think what I really, you know, like this anecdotal evidence, it is such a powerful, you know, devaluation of the single cases. Also, like, you know, like if an anthropologist would come to them it would always be like anecdotal knowledge, and I think anecdotal knowledge is so important because it's about in this case it's of course about how a person is feeling themselves, but in anthropology I think we can show very complex dynamics and relations where quantitative data is not able to, you know. So yeah. So I wanted to go with you into the problem of administering like the hormone levels, and this is because of course this is what, you know, doctors do. They see a person, they measure the blood, they look with her at the computer and say, oh, this is your hormone level, maybe they do, and then they prescribe new hormones. And here there was a trans woman, she had for a longer time already taken estrogen, and always I think 3 pumps, and then suddenly she had always very low levels, and suddenly she had 600. And then the doctor said, oh, this is too high, we need to lower your dose. And then she talked to some friends, and they told her, oh, listen, did you put estrogen on the arm where you draw the blood from? And she said, yeah, of course. And then they said, oh, this is because otherwise with so few pumps you couldn't get that high levels. So like measuring is a very fragile process. This is what I want to say, and there can always be errors. And like this is, you know, every doctor is so different in being transparent and also knowing about all these different things that could happen when measuring, you know, like a blood level. So, you know, and this is, you know, also the levels can be very different in relation to at what time after putting the gel is measured. Like, I show you here, this is like 2 hours after putting the gel. It goes so high up and then down. So a lot of things are not really controlled. And here, for example, it is about, this is a study where they put the same amount of gel but on different areas. You know, if you put it on a large area, you have a very small curve. If you put it on a small area, you have a high curve. And all these things like produce the value as much as in the laboratory, for example, it's another thing. You always have 2 machines and they measure with the same probe of blood, they measure different levels, and then they put take the middle and give it back to the practice. So, of course, you always need something to orientate, but I think these levels are very variable. You know, there are a lot of practices that could change the value and so on. Yeah, and a lot of doctors either don't know or don't tell the patients. So I think there are a lot of measuring errors going on. And you know, like insecurities or where you don't know. Yes. So, yeah, what I want to come back, you know, like the thing is that a lot of doctors have a quite, you know, especially in the endocrinologists, because I think somehow endocrinologists are more conservative. I feel like general practitioners, they always take time with the patients, even though they get less money. I don't know why, but they take so much time. But a lot of friends of mine, I heard a lot of stories who were like asking a doctor for another testosterone blocker to lower their testosterone dose, asking for progesterone, and they were always rejected because the doctor didn't want to change his regime. Like even a friend of mine, she said, oh, I get depressed from Andropur, which is cyproterone acetate, and then the doctor said, I will give you cyproterone acetate, which is the same medication. And sometimes I'm like really stunned about how doctors treat us, like really. It's crazy. And they just, I don't know what it is about actually. Because I always work with the sweet ones, you know, with the kind doctors. I don't, the assholes didn't let me in their practice. Yeah. So, for example, I know from two trans women who went to a new doctor, and then the doctor would say, you know, it's not so important the blood level of your hormones, more important is how you feel. And they were both crying because it was the first time in the whole, medical system process that someone said something like this. And I feel this is impressive and also sad. Yeah, really. And all the depression about cyproterone acetate. And I mean, so many trans mask people want to lower the dose of testosterone, and then some doctors are like, do you really want to transition? And I only do full dose, and they don't accept non-binary people and so on. So there is very small space for experimentation. I feel and also for people who want to try something. I mean, through this whole process in Germany, through pathology, it's a year's process, and then you go to a doctor, and then they don't really want you to cancel. It's as if this is a point of no return, and this is how it is constructed also. And also this, how all the talking about how hormones change the body, it is also constructed as a point of no return, and I feel like this is really something which is bad, because how can you know that you want something if you didn't experience it? So I feel we need much more softness and agility, in the medical practices. Yes. I mean, some psychotherapists even write letters where they say, please start with a low dose, because they hear from some doctors that they always do full dose testosterone, so on. Really, taking serious the patients and their experience, especially I think with hormones, it's so important, because it's a lot, it's making a lot, it's changing the body, it's changing psychic experiences and so on. I think it's really important to listen to what the people want. So, yeah. So this was also and very few, doctors know that, I don't know if this is possible here, but pharmacies can mix like gels with lower doses, for example. Because this is like the standard gel of testosterone. It has 20 milligram, and if you want to do like 5 milligram or 10, you always have to measure half a pump. This is vinocardis estradiol. Yeah. Yeah. And this is cyproteron acetate.
Esto es gel.
It's gel. Yeah, I can also show you. I can take both actually. So this is gel. It's for this is for menopause, produced for menopause. And exactly. And a gel, it takes now 20 minutes to soak in. And I shouldn't touch someone else now. Yes. Yeah. So yes, I'm coming a bit like, I mean, there are a lot of reasons why trans people, I mean, in medical practices, there's like, if doctors learn and talk about their relation to patients, there is this term compliance. And it's like how much a patient complies with the medication plan. And I think this is something, like some doctors are very strict. And they say, if you do something else and I feel you do something else, then I say, I will kick you out of my practice. Yes, it happened. And especially, you know, there's like a strong discourse towards drug-using sex workers that they don't comply. And this is why doctors don't want to treat them. Or they say, you know, like they sell the hormones, they don't want to prescribe them hormones. So, and I think, oh my God, they don't build a trustful relation actually. And some other doctors try to talk about trust. You know, we need to trust each other. And I want to support you. It's a very different way of treating someone. Yes. Because, like, on the other side, if people are not like in the regular system, there are other options, but a lot of options are also dangerous. And this is the other talk about harm reduction, you know. Like, I know a young trans woman, she didn't got the psychotherapeutic letter, like indication letter. She got herself testosterone blocker from the internet, and then she got like allergic and needed to go to hospital. Stuff like this. Like there are so many stories. And yes. But because of the, you know, the like difficulties with the doctors and the psychotherapy, a lot of people tend to self-medication.
Entonces, mujeres trans que quieren inyectarse.
Sí.
You talk about silicone.
No.
Okay.
About this.
That's hormones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
No, it's just a question.
No, this is what I want to, because like, you know, I also wanted to do some time injection. This is my injection. I got it from the black market. Because also my endocrinologist always wanted my hormone levels like very low. And I'm like, oh, I want to try it because like, I don't want to get breast operation, like only if I really need to, you know, but it took so long time, and with injections I go much better, really, because it does like over 1 week a high level in the curve, so it's a different, experience also, really. Yes. Yeah, and you know, like a lot of people like really don't have access to healthcare, so all these networks are very important, you know, like all
the hormones
people.
is easy to buy at the shop, or you need a prescription, because here you can buy hormones in the shop without a prescription. but in other countries maybe it's more difficult.
No, you need prescription, yeah. Because
So you have to cook the hormones, or you buy in the illegal way.
exactly, yeah. This is illegal. This is like now in Europe, some trans women cook. They
Cook their hormones by packing.
Exactly.
The yourself.
Yeah. Bathtub estrogen. This is bathtub estrogen.
There is a girl called Josie Signer that is a well-known biohacker in USA, and that she's making her transgender pathway biohacking herself, adjusting her hormone levels and cooking her own hormones. He has some kind of silicon register or blog. Maybe you could.
What is her name?
Josie Signer, with Josie Signer, and she were known as Josiah Signer in the past. She's from United States, and she has a company called the Odin that sell CRISPR-Cas or hormone kits for self-experimentation at home.
CRISPR-Cas also?
Yes, CRISPR-Cas kits for almost $100, something
In the
like
kitchen,
that.
in your house.
Yes, in the kitchen.
Well,
So this is it. This is from my side. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. I have a few questions. Because I don't know if you can see in the chat, maybe we have another questions or another. Well, but I think that at first I talk in Spanish, I guess, but if you don't understand, maybe Jime o alguien puede traducir.
Yes.
This thing that the artifact that produce a reality is very interesting, because we work with this in our work in a team. For instance, life and death is very interesting. When you change the technology, you have different measures. And in things that, binary is more than masculine and feminine, and death and life, no, natural, artificial, these kinds are binary too. Binary, no? Binary? And well, I especially work with fertilization in vitro, and the definition of the life, the beginning of life, it depends on the technology. Yes. And the way you measure diferentes formas de medir, diferentes tecnologías te permiten ver. Y another process that we work is the fragmentation of this body, the body object of the biomedicine is a body can that they can fragment it, se dice, no sé, and buy and sell, no? This concept, you say commodity in a moment, and we are working with that concept of commodity. biofragments, ¿cómo se dice materia prima? Es en latín materia prima. En alemán se entiende materia prima.
Biomaterial.
But
¿Cómo
you
se
need a
dice?
material, like tissue or...
No, materia prima. Marx, materia prima, ¿cómo dirá? No sé. ¿Cómo se dice materia prima en inglés?
Biomaterial.
When you have a factory, you need
Yeah,
materia prima.
stuff. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Mira, sin nada.
Raw material.
Raw material.
Raw material. Raw material.
Yeah.
Well, bio material primas. We talk about biomaterial primas in the case of fertilization in vitro because you need semen y óvulos, ¿no? You need circular, almacenar, comprar, vender, sell, buy, ensamblar. And you have a lot of different meanings superpuestos y también ahí la definición de lo que existe también está de acuerdo al tipo de intervención. Entonces, me parece que es un concepto. Perdón, empecé a ver en castellano. I think it's a very, very interesting thing that the body as commodity and body as algo que produce riqueza también. You know. I like to know much about the hormones, homemade hormones, and these kind of things. Y algunas preguntas tenía. Si querés hacemos todas las preguntas y después nos vas contestando o como quieras. Estás hablando en castellano. ¿Le puedes decir? Sí. Explicar.
First the question, then the answers, if you're okay.
We all do questions, like around questions, and then you
Oh.
one by one. What do you do?
Maybe 1, 2.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
otherwise I will forget. Huh? Yeah, I will
Okay.
forget.
I'm shocked with that thing of the sterilization. We are all in shock. We don't understand, but I guess that is binary problem.
Yeah.
It's like you say the one way, no direction, no one path on one way without. ¿Cómo se dice? No se puede volver atrás, ¿no? ¿Cómo es? Go back. Camino de una sola dirección.
Point of no return.
Point of no return. There is a film que se llama Point of no return. Well, I guess this is maybe related with this binary hard. No, I don't know, but we are shocking. We in our work with health problems of trans people, we change the word, especially we change supervision, medical supervision for medical accompaniment. Because, I think that in the future we can have a lot of work to compare. It's very, very interesting, the difference in Argentina with the counselings. Well, you know, we talk about this, but it's a very, very different experience that you say about that endocrinologist. They had a very hard vision, and the rule is very different. Well, the law, okay. And my question is about the neuroendocrinology laboratory. No, yes, I am curious about this work in the laboratory. Is these people, ¿cómo se llama?
Guide?
No, they have projects, research projects, or they work with trans problems. No, how do you go to this door? I'm very, very curious, and I want to know more about this. And in the proxima, in the next, we are going to read a text of Fabiola Roden about the use of testosterone, but in the upper middle classes, like testo, como, you know, improvement, improve yourself, you're more fit and more energetic, more. Well, it's very, very. I think you will like that work. Fabiola Roden is a colleague, very, very close, and it's a great anthropologist.
I have a question about the laboratory. Why they use an MRI for study transgender people?
You know,
¿Por qué
A ella le entiendo y a vos no.
Bueno, perdón, ¿por qué usan el razonador?
Sorry, I don't understand.
Pero ella me entendió, que es lo
I
importante.
understand. I know. ¿Qué dije?
¿Por qué usan el MRI?
Okay.
because it's a study group. They are feminist. It's like also the professor. He's really cool, and they always they were a lot on women's health and hormones. So they research a lot on contraceptive spiral, on contraceptive pills, the different ones, and how they affect mental health. So and brain structures. So they also research on how hormones shape the human brain. And they now did a study in 2 laboratories, in 2 institutes, in northern Germany and southern Germany, with trans people. And how before and 6 months after starting hormones, trans people react differently to pictures of people and how they choose their gender. It's really fun. And they do MRI because they want to see how brains are different. And then, it's about the concepts of psychology, of neuropsychology, how they say a brain functions.
Biomedical base, biologist base of mental health. It's a different way than here.
Ah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's very interesting because they try to isolate biology. They want to cut out, they want the pure, there's always an incentive and a reaction, and you can measure it. And this is pure biology, so
yes.
They try to cut out the subjectivity. Even some people who take part in the study, they don't know what it is about, because they think then there would be a bias in the study. And it's so interesting how they produce a very artificial situation, but it's about measurement. Measurement is about difference, producing difference. You always need something comparable. And I think it's really interesting because it's a very old notion of what is truth, a truth about materiality. So
yes.
I really like this. Yeah, it's a very interesting. I really like them, and they all know about all the contradictions in their work. They're very smart. It's really cool, but they have such a different way of doing research than me.
Yeah.
So it's words, yeah. But yeah, I'm what I really found interesting in that case study with the trans people. Like normally, if they make a study, they only choose people who don't have a diagnosed depression or some, mental anxiety disorder, all these. They take the people because they want to measure a normal population. And so if they do a stress study, they would not take LGBTQIA+ people because they don't have different stress reaction because of homophobia, queerphobia and everything. So they don't take them in. But with trans people, they have such a high comorbidity that they take them in. So like in the trans study, there are all the different kinds of illnesses represented because they can't do different because there are so few. But for me, it's a very interesting idea of producing an unbiased study. And also that, it becomes very clear that we humans always grow with our surrounding and our experience. So I think it's a very fragile production of a normal body if you cut everyone out, yeah, it's very interesting. The production of data in pure biology.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
¿Te fijaste, Jiménez, si hay alguna?
Maybe, I don't know, I don't know, the DIY hormones. I think, the history of hormone research is very interesting. And this is also what I like about Karen Barat, when they say, the research apparatus and the produces the knowledge. Like in the 1800s, they would discover hormones, especially through cutting gonads from animals.
Mm-hmm.
And they would also, it was then still called organotherapy. They would crush, for example, the ovaries of whales, of chicken, they would crush and make an essence out of it and then give it to mouse and change their gender or change their menstruation cycle or anything. So, and they also did a lot, testing on queer people and brown and black incarcerated people in Germany in the concentration camps. They did a lot of research. So if you take this concept of that the way you research produces the knowledge, it is very interesting how the methods go. And in former times, it was still very invasive and brutal, And so also the concepts of the body were really there is a homeostasis, and then you cut something out, you bring it out of the equilibrium. I think it's still really represented in the knowledge that was produced back then, or the violence that was put into the research, Yes. And now I think hormones like this, I think they are produced both from yams. And a lot of production is in China. Yams.
Yams?
It's a root.
Ñames.
Yam.
No son como unos tubérculos que parecen ñam.
Ah, ñame.
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 Los de la Florian.
Es Yes, sweet potato or
Yeah.
Las
something.
hormonas.
Sweet potato or something, cassava.
See, something like
Cassava
this.
or sweet potato or something like that.
No, que ella me decía todo vuelve.
Todo
El
es
poliñame.
Ah,
Y la ruta de la seda.
And like I think
The name is silk of this, but no, no, la ruta de la seda, the Silk Route, China, and I remember the name of silk, and it's a coincidence. Name, the plant.
yes.
Ah, yes.
I think it's produced out of that, and then they first produce estrone, and out of estrone you can do estrogen and testosterone. But somehow this is much more, like this costs, like 3 of them cost 180 euro if you buy it like this.
80 euros.
180.
180, wow.
Almost 200.
It's really a lot, and this is much cheaper. I
Más
think
de
it's
100
more
dólares.
like 80 or 90.
Sí.
El trabajo es más barato.
Yo tengo una pregunta.
Buddy, yeah.
I was thinking about the prescribing. So maybe I was thinking about, I don't know if you know, but you said in Bremen they don't prescribe. So what happens in not trans cases? Like maybe cis persons that go, and a couple of years ago I had some blood exams, and my andrógeno was too high, so I went to the endocrinologist, and she said, okay, so here we use a lot of pastillas anticonceptivas. So she said, take these, and this will, como estabilizar. So what happens in cities like Bremen? Do they not use neither for trans or no trans, or do they?
This is transphobia.
Okay.
Pure transphobia.
Okay, so they do use it.
Of course. I mean, like, like the German healthcare system is like, they say for 100,000 people there may be, I don't know, 4 general practitioners and 1 endocrinologist and 2 gynecologists and so on. And this is how many practices they are allowed. And in Bremen, of course, I think there are 2 endocrinological practices, but they don't want to do it. And I think this is the problem about trans healthcare. If people don't want to do it, they don't need to. And of course, this practice will take all the what is it? People with diabetes, they can, of course, everyone is treated there, but not trans people.
Okay.
Yes.
So maybe speaking about Donna Haraway and the cyborg body, there is a text of Paul Preciado, that now is Beatriz Preciado, and she speaks about a girl that went to the doctor, and she had been like stealing her mom's hormones.
Yes.
And so she asks about why are we thinking about like a cyborgization of the body only if it's for trans and not if it's for a cis woman that needs like some type of supplement.
No, I really like. I thought Paul was Beatrice before, and now Paul since.
Maybe.
I think so.
Maybe.
And
¿Cuál es ahora?
Pues pensé que era al revés.
Paul Preciado, see, and yeah, I really like. I think he also said this formulation that like the binary gender, and I think he especially coins it to women is that it is an artifact our biomedical system. And I really like this because I think I once cited it a bit in a talk where I say, if trans people say, I'm not that gender that you ascribe to me, I'm not this historical artifact which is carried through time towards my body, and I'm defined by this. So it's a rejection. To me, transitioning is a very powerful process of owning gender, and I think, in feminism, it's also about owning the body, saying what is femininity and what is the female body. And I think there are a lot of ways of doing it, of rejecting, this gender as description. Yeah, and this is very important. I mean, of course, for me, in my study, it is a lot about trans, and and I feel like, okay, I talk a lot about how transgender is produced and constructed, and I feel like, it actually needs to do this also for cis gender, but I don't have the time. But
we have a question in chat from Mabel.
Very good.
The first question is whether in her work you take the transgender body as a discursive material apparatus, or whether you apply the concept of discursive materiality to socially produced meaning. Is that the question?
Very good, yeah.
How you apply the concept that implies itself co-creation.
Yeah.
That's the question. Or the
yeah, I don't know. I think I think in all the situations that we produce meaning, we have a method, and this also can be our bodies. I think this is what we ethnographers actually do. And in that way, we could understand our senses phenomenologically or something as our way of producing knowledge. And so we are kind of a material discursive apparatus, of course, because we are materiality, we are. And I felt this a lot because I was writing about a lot of violence, and I felt like nobody told me before that I was going to be an ethnographer, and I would try to condense a lot of experiences through my own experience into a text. And this kind of, it kind of was traumatizing in a way, because I know about so many people who suffered so much, who tried to kill themselves, who were also killed themselves, and so on. I know so many crazy stories where I feel like, oh, this is also through my experience. And when I was writing, I was sometimes really overwhelmed. Yes. So yes, I think our bodies are also material discursive apparatuses. They are not in that sense a machine like an ultrasonic thingy. But yeah, I think so. Does this answer your question, Mabel?
I suppose.
Well, I have one question. It was really interesting to see how you analyze the ways that medical knowledge measure that kind of situations, and for example the graphic about the menstruation bodies, and the other one about I don't remember the blood. And I think that the way you talk about emotions in your presentation and in your chapter is a good strategy to go against the bodies understood as objects.
Yeah, okay, good.
So I want to ask you about the relation between knowledge produced by doctors and activism knowledge. If you find any kind of reproduction of that kind of knowledge, or distance or hybrid situations, or what happened there, and also if you want to tell us something about your ethnographic process. How did you register, well, whatever you want to share with us.
Yes, like really, thank you for this question also, because I'm really interested what also your questions to the field of like to this material are. So please, if you know, what would you like to know from me? I'm really interested in also how could I write my story, you know, like, and so, and so I think it's really interesting, you know, when I went to my first endocrinological appointment, I said, oh, I don't want to take Cyproteron-acetat because I fear that I get a brain cancer. It said if you take it for a long time, but you know, like that, back then I was thinking, oh my God, all the risk.
Yeah.
But and he said, oh, there's a lot of shit in the internet about that one. So, and then other doctors, you know, it really depends on the person. It's so crazy. And some doctors also take, you know, the community knowledge very serious. They go to the, you know, trans community pages and learn from them, you know, to be more agile in their practices, experiment, and not be so rigid. So I think these knowledges overlap, especially with trans-feminizing. There is a trans-feminizing hormonal treatment. There is a internet page which is called Trans-Fem Sciences. It gathers a lot of knowledges, and I want to show you, for example. Oh no, I don't have internet. Okay.
No tenemos.
WeFilo, there's a free network called WeFilo, with WIFILO.
Didn't work. Maybe.
I'm connected to that one actually.
So a lot of doctors, voila, also go, some, you know, cool doctors, progressive doctors, they also go to this page because there were some activists putting a lot of knowledge together, and they often know much more than endocrinologists who only use the you know, world professional association standards of care. So, and they produce, for example, a simulator if you do self-injection. And then you can say, I do this like, I don't know, what is it? Simple graph time. Where's the, voila, Cyproteron. So I have here, this is enantat. And if I do every 7 days, like, no, 7 milligrams.
Un simulador.
Es un simulador por las inyecciones, like, so for self-medication. So you know round about where your levels are. But of course, like every curve, it is only one curve.
And it was made by activists.
Activists, exactly. But now some doctors also use it to know what they are doing, or like to counsel people who are doing it. Like in Berlin, there's a group of very cool doctors, and who are very, in touch. And but in other cities, it's very bad, like Bremen. Yeah, and then you can simulate, like how often you want to inject, zack, 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 whatever. So I think, it really depends on the practice, and I think this is something I don't really know. Like sometimes I wish there would be a bit more, that I could go to a psychotherapist and they would know something about trans. Like I think I went to 2 psychotherapists and they didn't know anything. They were like, so also with doctors, I would like more doctors to know something. So in a way, I like standardization because of course it gives the possibility to learn. But on the other way, it is really about the relationality that is produced in the medical practices that is also of importance. And like exactly how, and this is why I like to be with this group and also produce workshops where there are also other trans persons who say, let's not talk about supervision or administration and compliance, but let's talk about
Acompañamiento.
Sí, medical accompaniment. And like and harm reduction and so on. Let's not go into this authoritative mode. Yeah. But this is the other side where I didn't talk much about, because like the healthcare system, I think it's a very structural thing, like the whole thingy of trans healthcare not being normalized, of being something exceptional, of something where doctors fear, they lose money, and so on, like all this stuff is a structural transphobia, and this is a big problem. And I don't know where we will go the next years, because I feel already now a lot of health insurances start to be more severe. And they now send around a letter. It is very unofficial, but they sent around a letter where they say, now we want for every hormone treatment, we want an extra application. And I already heard of cases in Frankfurt where people were sent away because they didn't do an extra application to the health insurance. Like normally you can just go to a doctor with an indication letter, and only for an operation you need an extra application. But now they want it maybe also for hormone therapy, which is very bad. It will, like, pathologization is so bad, it makes like our years go away. So much energy, so much years. Yeah. I don't want to lament all the time. Yeah. Autoethnography. Like I got, I think 2 years I was really a lot about, this is how I feel, this is how I do it. And then after 2 years I got bored, I just didn't do it anymore. But of course, I think, like this year, I think it is really powerful and very good. Because also now I feel like there were so many crucial moments and I forget them. Because now it's 3.5 years ago and I don't really remember how it was for me, being so excited, taking the first time hormones, and all these moments where doctors were like, your chromosomes are XY, you are a man biologically, like all this stuff is really good to write down, and also, for my own understanding of how biomedicine thinks about bodies and stuff. Like I think it's a very fruitful way of, because I think most of our ethnography is autoethnography.
Yeah, most of them.
it's your experience.
Of course.
And you write down what you experience. Of course, maybe you write over other people and situations, but I think, and this is the other part, I will not narrate myself as myself, I think. Because I don't want to be so vulnerable. Because I fear that people will attack me, you know, really. Yeah. And this is the same thing with, I don't know how much I will write about the self-medication. Because I know so much about the networks, how to get hormones, how to go on the black market, you know, all this stuff I know. But I don't want to make people, like especially right-wing politicians, I don't want to make them aware. Because, you know, like, I gave a workshop to young trans persons about, you know, all these discourses of risks and hormone therapy. Am I trans enough and can I start? Blah blah blah. And I was attacked by right wingers.
We don't have this problem because our politicians doesn't read anything.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
But no, it's.
I don't know. You know,
it's a problem in anthropology, in the history of anthropology.
Exactly.
That problem, ¿no? About la información y hay un debate incluso en la actualidad. Oh, miren quién llegó.
Hola, perdonen que no pude venir antes, pero ya lo voy a ver en...
This is our academic coordinator, debo decir. ¿Cómo es tu...?
Secretario académico.
Y no, secretary... Bueno. Ahí, secretary no se dice. No sé, bueno. Secretary, parece así. Pero sí, bueno, ok. No, estaba diciendo que es un debate actual. In this moment, about the datos, se dice dates, no, the data, es irme a una cita. Data of fieldwork. There is a debate, no, a discuss about if this. You can, ¿cómo es? Digamos, no sé explicarlo, se me fue el inglés a pasear. Mi inglés ya se fue a tomar cerveza. Esto está saliendo por YouTube. Yes. Increíble.
Lo editamos,
por favor, recorten esta parte. No, quiero decirle a alguien que tenga todavía algo de brain ahí. La miro a Jimena, que es mi official translator. El debate es sobre los datos de la investigación que tienen que estar publicados. En CONICET ahora se abrió un slot para incluir datos y hay un debate porque en general la antropología, algunos no tenemos tantos datos sensibles, pero hay muchos datos sensibles. We have a lot of sensitive data.
So much, yeah.
And it's a problem for anthropology in all the history, ¿no? Desde el colonialismo. Explicarle que no pude.
The fair principles for sharing data online on database or in system of data, and the problem is the sensibility of that data available in open data
source,
open source. So what happened with those kind of data that maybe could be used for discriminate or maybe for I don't know, a lot of
we must preserve
the data and I don't know, maybe because you have to apply some principles in order to the good practices of sharing data, but in the other hand you have to give some kind of protection to that people and their data, because maybe it could be used, I don't know, for insurance companies or discriminate in order to achieve.
It's always the question of anthropology. For whom do we produce our knowledge?
Our research, yes.
For the academy, for the subject
For
that
the
we
people.
study, for who and how.
Yeah, I mean, like, I also feel like I could, like, my book in the end could be read as a very, how do you say, Anleitung, una Instruktion, Instruktion von Konservativos, how to make translate words. Because I show a lot of vulnerability and I think also a lot of strategies, you know.
Claro, claro. Sí.
So I think it could be used also to make everything worse, but it could also be used to make things better. So I'm not sure, but yeah. But I will be careful with these, you know, these illegal
Es
things.
un material sensible.
Yeah.
And have you get in touch with local activism?
Yeah.
You are in contact?
Here?
Yes.
Ah.
With local groups.
Yeah. No, only in Mar del Plata I met some people.
Hay una tsunami de actividades.
And here,
Me hablaban la gente. Claro, es que estaba allá.
Overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I would really want to meet more people here. And I'm in contact with Camila and
Camila.
and Agustina and
Agustina, que son del área de salud y diversidad de provincia de Buenos Aires. Y en Mar del Plata había muchas organizaciones y todas las personas le hablaban a él al principio y no era como, pero fue muy intenso. Very intense. Mar del Plata. Muy.
yeah, but this is really like I'm already like I learn a lot, but I want to be more in touch. Really, yeah. Also I want to meet Juan.
Claro, Juan hoy no pudo venir, pero Juan está en el equipo y Juan trabajó muchísimos años con más organizaciones en todo el país.
And already, I think when I was talking to
Alejandra de la Casa.
Sí. Also, I learned so much, you know, about the history of pathologization here, and like she was like just saying, if you want to push that in Germany, you need to do this and this and that, and also Mabel, I think, also very here go like this, and really because you know in Germany we don't have a discourse of how do you say like reparation. And we need, like, if we want to talk about justice that is like done to us for the harm that we experience and people experience, we need to have a discourse on it of reparation. And this is, I
maybe
think,
the organizations. I guess it's interesting to compare the work of organizations, because in Argentina they have a political history very strong. You know, in the future we can talk about this. Y Alejandra He works in her thesis, doctoral and magister, the both, with this. In the first with the clinical groups and the hospital and with the organizations and experiments. Well, I think we have to cut here.
Finish?
Censored.
Okay.
Vamos a presentar, por favor,
Thank you.
Daniel.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Helen, for visiting us in our institute and for staying here and share with us your research and your knowledge about your research. And so, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me here. It's so cool, and I was so excited, and it was just really nice.
Oh,
I hope it was interesting.
It's a friendly chat. Just